Here we are in NSORRA round 4 in South Alton, running intermediate A. I had an okay start here. I think I'm sitting in about 8th position. I think there was around 20 bikes. Snuck by this guy here. So sitting in about 7th, so I was quite happy at this point. I just knew I needed to kind of just settle in and kind of see what I could do just to maintain a pace. I had issue with my hand. I ended up getting a bad splinter in my middle finger and my clutch hand a couple days before this, and my hand was swollen and I was unable to really squeeze it, but I figured by the time I kind of got into the mix of things, got the adrenaline going, that things would loosen up, and the more that I used it, it might get better. But anyway, as you'll see, things kind of naturally progressed in the wrong direction that I was hoping, but certainly weather was decent this day. It was a little cooler, which was nice. I knew the upper section was dry and a little quicker. There was a lower section that was a bit rockier, a little bit more mud and rock, so I knew that one would probably prove a bit more challenging. Figured it would shake up the mix and shuffle some people around a fair bit. So just at this point, I was just kind of didn't really have any expectations for the day, just with my hand not being 100%. But you know, I had already registered and paid, so I figured I'd go out and give it a shot and see what happens. Like I said, sitting in 7th here, I'm behind Kathleen Tobin, and she's heading to Spain to race on behalf of Canada, so that's a pretty cool opportunity for her, and I'm sure she's super stoked about that. It was nice to follow her, even if it was for a brief period of time, but I wish her best of luck when she heads overseas, and I suspect it's going to be an epic opportunity for her, and regardless of the outcome, I'm sure she'll represent Nova Scotia, the East Coast, and the Enduro community well. So this year we ran it the opposite direction than last year, so some of these hills were going up. Definitely changed the vibe of the track. I hit a root there. That one was nasty. That was the first and the last time I did that. That one bucked me pretty good. I remember just watching the video, I can distinctly remember how that felt. So one of those moments where you're like, I do not want to do that again. But coming through here, there's some switchbacks, quite loose sand here. We haven't had a lot of rain for a while, so there wasn't a lot of traction. I ended up getting on the inside of that rut, and it pretty near drugged me up out of it, but anyway, I was able to manage not falling over. But I knew it was going to be loose there. It was hard to get a lot of traction. So a little dusty, but certainly not too bad. It was manageable to see. Like I said, this is the 4th race of the season. The last race is coming up the end of September. We'll be in Cape Breton again, so looking forward to that track. It's a really fun track with lots of elevation changes and some technical sections, and just a really good track overall, so looking forward to that. And hopefully by then my hand will be 100% and I won't have any excuses. So that's what I'm coming up with now. It's my performance was because of my hand, and I'm sticking to it. So anyway, it's just the luck of the draw. Maybe if I had a recluse, I wouldn't need the clutch. So there's always things you can do, but figured if I could kind of keep up to Kathleen. I knew she was always really consistent and found her really quick off the start, so I was just kind of trying to focus on my breathing and keep settled down and try to conserve my energy. And she hit that rock pretty nasty, and she bucked her sideways, but she didn't give it up. She was being firm on keeping that line, and good for her. And anyway, if I had been a little closer, I might have been able to kind of capitalize on that. I do find these Hare scrambles, that's really tight technical trails, so to pass you have to be really close, and quite often you're waiting for someone just to have the smallest little mess up, and got to capitalize on it, because the opportunities are few and far between. Anyway, coming through kind of a slower technical section on the upper side. It's hard to tell, but there's a few little rock hill faces and little quick inclines, which is kind of fun. I've run it the other way, the opposite direction, and going this direction definitely it's quite a bit different vibe. So. Coming down into here, you hear some revving. I think Kathleen must have hit a rock or something and she put her down, but I just figured I'd wait for her to pick it up and take the pass there. So I'm sitting in 6th position right now, so didn't really know it at the time, obviously, but now we come down into this, I don't know what you want to call this, kind of marshy area with a lot of rocks. There's some roots there as well, water, mud. It was kind of a mixture of everything. Figured there was no reason to kind of get up on top of someone, because I figured somebody might get stuck, and I didn't want to get covered, but as you can see, it's a nice little waterfall there of mud. So anyway, there wasn't really anywhere I could go, so I just sat there until Buddy had took off, and then I pulled away. So anyway, Kathleen takes the pass back. She goes to the right, and looks like she puts her in a bit of a hole there, and yeah, she looks like she's loving life right now. I'm pretty sure that's the universal sign of shaking the hands. It's just enjoying that. So anyway, guy passed me on the left. At this point, I could tell my left hand was starting to fail. I couldn't squeeze the clutch properly. I ended up really struggling to get through some of these rocky sections with modulation of the clutch. But somebody put her off in the rhubarb there. It was really greasy coming up this hill. I don't know, just the mud left over from that swampy section that caused a little bit of an issue, but anyway, at this point in the game, I was just kind of survival mode. I was like, I knew I wasn't gonna pull off any heroic moves and maintain a pace that was gonna be competitive. So at this point, I was just like, well, let's just remain calm and not try and get all jacked up. And as you can see, a lot of bikes were revving, and it would be easy to kind of get caught up in the mix of things if you were trying to be competitive. But I had to take a break here just for a minute. Just the hand is just cramping up, and yeah, super rocky terrain down here on this lower part, and clutch control, throttle control was pivotal, and that was one thing I was lacking. So definitely made the struggle a little bit worse, and my fatigue in my hand and probably my frustration is probably starting to escalate at this point, just making silly mistakes, and a couple guys get by me here and trying to take a breather here to let them go by. I knew there was no way I was going to be able to keep a pace to be competitive, so let a couple guys go that were there and keep plugging away at it. Did a little pass here, but he must have hit a tree or a root or rock and he got hung up, so took that pass back. But was kind of thankful we got back out on the more open stuff, so able to flow a little bit better here. point I was really trying to figure out, you know, what gear to be in. Should I run a gear lower? You have to use the clutch less. Unfortunately, it just makes the bike a little more unsettled, which I found, so it was kind of, it was a hard decision to kind of figure out what gear to run in, but back down in that muddy section, I took a different line here. Not sure if that was a laughter of pain or what am I doing here at this point in my life, but anyway, nonetheless, I was able to get through that fairly cleanly. Just trying to conserve energy through there. Bit of a traffic jam here, so took that opportunity to relax that hand for a minute, but looked like guys were getting a little antsy. Somebody tried to go around a tree. Just not a lot of room to do so probably didn't really get them any further ahead. This hill here got really loose, and as you can see, I'm all over the place. It felt way worse than it probably looked, but just the back end was just sliding everywhere, and that was with very minimal throttle. Coming down this hill, I kind of near put myself in a predicament there. There was a bit of a drop off, and then there was a rock, and of course made the perfect combination, and so you see, not everybody was able to get through a lot of these sections cleanly. Then there was some fallovers, and poor guy fell to the right, fell to the left. I'm sure he's loving his life now. So, but I was of no real desire to try to sneak by him and get myself into the same predicament, because I really didn't feel like picking up my bike any more than I needed to. So I just sat and waited for him to get moving again and kept plugging along. Another individual picking up his bike, so it seemed to be a common theme for some people that day, but I guess that's the fun part. This was the later part of the race, and I started getting really tired, and I came into a left-hand turn here, and I couldn't even pull the clutch in to prevent it from stalling, and just pretty much to the point now I'm like contemplating if I should just call her quits. Hard to tell, but there was a tree that got stuck in the sprocket and the spoke, so it took me a little bit to get out there, and this was just a short moment while after that. Not using the clutch, I fell and landed on my ribs pretty good and knocked the wind out of myself, and was able to pick the bike back up, but at this point I knew there was really no reason to continue on. I was about an hour and 20 minutes into the race. I knew I had a couple more laps to go, and I was just making mistakes. And so to prevent any further injury to myself or the bike, I decided to pull off. And it was 1 hour 19 minutes into her. So anyway, looking for the next round, and hopefully that goes a little bit better. Anyway, hope you enjoyed.